The slap echoed through the supermarket. My mother-in-law's face turned red. But what happened next? My husband didn't just defend her, he destroyed that woman's entire life in 48 hours. They called him heartless, but they didn't know the dark secret that woman was hiding. This is that story. This isn't just a revenge story, it's a calculated destruction you won't believe. Subscribe right now because the twists in this story will leave you speechless. Hit that bell icon, you don't want to miss what happens next. My name is Rose, and 3 years ago I married into a world I never imagined existed. Not just wealth, but the kind of power that moves silently through boardrooms and breaks empires before breakfast. My husband Adrian isn't the kind of billionaire you see on magazine covers with a wide smile. He's the kind who owns the magazines, cold, calculated, and so calm that even in our most intimate moments, I sometimes wondered what he was really thinking. But I loved him. And more surprisingly, I loved his mother Helena even more. Helena was everything Adrian wasn't. Warm, open, always laughing. She treated me like the daughter she never had from the moment we met. In a mansion with 20 bedrooms and staff who barely made eye contact, Helena was the only person who made me feel like a human being instead of an accessory to wealth. She'd sneak into the kitchen at midnight, and we'd make hot chocolate and talk about everything. Her past, her dreams, her fears. Though looking back now, I realize she never told me everything. There were pieces missing, gaps in her stories that I was too naive to notice. The first real hint came about 6 months into my marriage. I walked into Adrian's study and found him burning a letter over a crystal ashtray. The edges curled and blackened, and I caught just a few words before they disappeared. "You'll pay," and "haven't forgotten." "What's that?" I asked. Adrian looked up, his gray eyes unreadable. "Nothing important. Old business." It looked like a threat. "Old enemies, Rose. When you build an empire, you make people angry." He kissed my forehead, but his jaw was tight. "Don't worry about it." But I did worry, because over the next few months, more letters came. Always hand-delivered, no return address. And Adrian always burned them with the same disturbing calmness, like he was performing a ritual he'd done 1,000 times before. Helena noticed me watching once. "He's protecting us," she said softly. "That's what he does." "From what?" She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "From people who can't let go of the past." I should have pushed harder, asked more questions, but in that golden cage of wealth and comfort, it was easier to pretend everything was fine. Then came that Tuesday, the day everything shattered. Helena had been quieter than usual that morning. She pushed her breakfast around her plate, and I noticed her hands trembling slightly when she reached for her coffee. Adrian was in back-to-back board meetings, already gone before sunrise. It was just the two of us in that enormous dining room that could seat 30 people. "Rose," she said suddenly, "would you come somewhere with me today?" "Of course." "Where?" "There's a supermarket across town." "The one on Maple Street?" She looked down. "I used to work there, a long time ago. I want to visit it one more time." I was surprised. Helena usually shopped at boutique stores where they knew her by name, or more often she just had things delivered. The idea of her in a regular supermarket seemed almost amusing. "Why that one specifically?" Her eyes got distant. "Because that's where I worked as a cashier 30 years ago, before I met Adrian's father. Before all of this." She gestured at the crystal chandeliers, the oil paintings worth more than most people's houses. I need to remember who I was, where I came from. Something in her voice made my chest tight. "Helena, are you okay?" "I'm fine, sweetheart. I just want to feel normal for a few hours. Is that strange?" "Not at all," I said, though everything about it felt strange. We took one of the smaller cars, and Helena insisted on driving herself. I watched her hands grip the steering wheel too tightly, watched her eyes constantly checking the rearview mirror. She was nervous, I realized, maybe even scared. But of what? The supermarket was ordinary. Fluorescent lights, shopping carts with squeaky wheels, people in yoga pants buying cereal. Helena stood in the entrance for a long moment, just breathing. "I was 19 when I worked here," she said quietly, "before I knew anything about the world. Before I understood what monsters looked like in expensive suits." "Helena, come on." She grabbed a cart and suddenly she was smiling again. "Let's shop like normal people." For a while it was actually lovely. Helena pointed out where the break room used to be, told me stories about her co-workers, laughed about the time she dropped an entire display of soup cans. We filled our cart with things we didn't need, and she seemed lighter than I'd seen her in months. Then I noticed the woman. She was standing at the end of the produce aisle just staring at us. Expensively dressed in a cream pantsuit, designer handbag, too much makeup trying to hide the work she'd had done. But her eyes were filled with pure hatred. "Helena," I said quietly, "that woman is watching us." Helena's head snapped up. She looked, and I saw all the color drain from her face. The apple she was holding dropped back into the bin. "We need to leave," she whispered. "What? Why?" But it was too late. The woman was already walking toward us, her heels clicking on the linoleum like a countdown. Other shoppers were starting to notice, sensing drama the way people always do. "You!" the woman spat, stopping right in front of our cart. "After everything, you have the nerve to show your face here?" Helena's hands were shaking. "Vanessa, I didn't know..." "Didn't know what?" "That I still live in this town? That I still remember what you did?" Vanessa's voice was getting louder, shriller. People were definitely watching now, some even pulling out their phones. "I don't understand," I said, stepping between them. "Who are you?" Vanessa's laugh was ugly. "I'm the daughter of the man this woman destroyed. I'm the child who watched her family fall apart because Helena here decided to seduce a married man and steal everything we had." My stomach dropped. I looked at Helena, waiting for her to deny it, to explain. But she was just standing there, tears streaming down her face, silent. "That's not..." Helena started. "Not what?" Vanessa screamed. "Not true? My father lost everything because of you, his business, his reputation, his family. We went from a mansion to a one-bedroom apartment. I had to leave my private school, and it was all your fault." "Please," Helena said, her voice breaking. "You don't understand what really happened. I understand perfectly. You were his secretary. You wanted his money. You spread lies about him, turned everyone against him, and then you married that lawyer who helped you do it." Vanessa was crying now too, mascara running down her face. "You destroyed him. He died alone and broken because of you." The crowd was thick now. I could see phones recording and my mind was racing. This couldn't be true. Helena wouldn't. She couldn't. "Vanessa, please listen." Helena tried again, reaching out. And that's when Vanessa slapped her. The sound cracked through the store like a gunshot. Helena stumbled backward, hit the shelf behind her, and I watched in horror as her head connected with the metal edge. She went down hard, and there was blood immediately, running down from her temple. "Helena!" I dropped to my knees beside her. She was conscious but dazed, blinking slowly. The blood was spreading too fast. "Someone call an ambulance!" "She deserved it," Vanessa said, but her voice was shaking now. "She deserved worse than that." I pulled out my phone with trembling hands. First, I called 911. Then, with my heart pounding, I called Adrian. He answered on the first ring. "Rose? I'm in a meeting. Adrian, someone just attacked your mother. We're at the supermarket on Maple Street. She's bleeding. There's an ambulance coming, but you need to get here now." The silence on the other end lasted exactly 3 seconds. When Adrian spoke again, his voice was so calm it made my blood run cold. "Is she conscious?" "Yes, but who hit her?" "A woman named Vanessa. She says Helena destroyed her family 30 years ago. She's telling everyone that your mother was a homewrecker." "Vanessa Pierce? What?" "Her name is Vanessa Pierce, Ronald Pierce's daughter." Adrian's voice was still eerily calm. "Don't let her leave. I'm 20 minutes away." He hung up. I looked up at Vanessa, who was now talking to the gathering crowd, her voice carrying, "This woman ruined my family." She seduced my father and destroyed our lives. She deserves everything she gets." The ambulance arrived, and paramedics gently moved Helena onto a stretcher. I climbed in with her, holding her hand. She squeezed my fingers weakly. "Rose," she whispered, "I need to tell you the truth. Save your strength." "No." "Before Adrian gets there. Before this gets worse." Her eyes found mine. "I was Ronald Pierce's secretary 30 years ago, but I didn't seduce him, Rose. I testified against him." My heart stopped. "What?" "He was beating his wife." Their daughter Vanessa was just a child, but she saw things no child should see. I witnessed him throw his wife down the stairs. I couldn't stay silent. Helena's grip tightened. "I testified in her divorce case. His wife got a restraining order. His business partners found out what kind of man he really was, and they abandoned him. Not because of an affair that never happened, but because he was violent and dangerous. But Vanessa thinks Ronald spent the rest of his life telling his daughter I was the villain, that I stole everything from them. He couldn't admit what he really was, so he made me the monster in her story." Helena's eyes closed. "Adrian's father was the lawyer who protected me when Ronald tried to come after me. That's how we met. That's how we fell in love." The ambulance pulled up to the hospital and they wheeled Helena away. I sat in the emergency room waiting area, my mind spinning. If what Helena said was true, then Vanessa had been lied to her entire life. But she'd also just assaulted someone based on those lies, and it was all caught on camera. This was going to explode. I turned on my phone and saw it was already happening. Someone had posted the supermarket video. It was going viral. The headlines were already forming. "Billionaire's mother attacked in supermarket," and "Woman claims Helena Cross destroyed her family." Then Adrian walked through the emergency room doors. I'd never seen him like this. He looked exactly the same. Perfect suit, not a hair out of place, face completely calm. But there was something in his eyes that made everyone in the waiting room instinctively move back, like they could sense the danger radiating off him. "Where is she?" he asked me. "They're treating her now." She needed stitches, possible concussion. "And Vanessa Pierce?" "She's at the supermarket still, I think." "Talking to police." Adrian nodded once. Then he pulled out his phone and made a call. "Stevens, it's time." "Yes, all of it. I want the Pierce files on every news desk by tomorrow morning. Everything we have on the husband, too." He paused, listening. "I don't care about the optics." She touched my mother. "Burn it all down." He made 3 more calls in rapid succession. Each one was brief, cold, efficient. I watched him orchestrate something massive, and I realized with a chill that he'd been preparing for this. For years. "Adrian," I said quietly, "what are you doing?" He looked at me, and for the first time since I'd known him, I saw the mask slip. Underneath the calm was a rage so deep and cold it took my breath away. "I'm ending this," he said, "once and for all." A doctor came out and told us Helena was stable. Adrian went in to see her alone. I waited, and after 15 minutes, a nurse told me I could go in too. Helena was awake, a white bandage on her head. Adrian was sitting beside her bed, holding her hand. When I entered, Helena looked at me with red eyes. "Did you tell her?" Adrian asked his mother. Helena nodded. "Good." Adrian stood up. "Rose, my mother is a victim, not a villain. 30 years ago, Ronald Pierce was an abusive husband. My mother witnessed his violence and had the courage to testify. His wife divorced him, got herself and Vanessa away from him. Pierce's business associates learned what kind of man he was, and they cut ties." "So he blamed your mother," I said. "He blamed everyone except himself. And he raised Vanessa on those lies." Adrian's jaw tightened. "I've known about Vanessa Pierce for 15 years. After my father died, I found his files. All the documentation of Pierce's violence, the court records, everything. I've had investigators tracking the Pierce family ever since. Why? Because men like Ronald Pierce don't just have one victim. Because I knew that eventually Vanessa would come looking for revenge, and I wanted to be ready." Adrian pulled out a folder from his briefcase. Vanessa married a man named Gregory Palmer 10 years ago. Palmer runs a real estate investment company. On paper, he's worth about $20 million. He opened the folder, showing me documents I couldn't fully understand. Bank statements, transaction records, names highlighted in yellow. In reality, Palmer has been running a fraud scheme for 8 years. Money laundering, tax evasion, falsified property values. He's stolen approximately $40 million from investors, many of them elderly people who trusted him with their retirement savings. My hand flew to my mouth. And you've known? I've been building the case. Quietly, legally. I have federal prosecutors ready to move, but I was waiting for the right moment. I needed Vanessa to make a mistake first. Adrian's smile was terrifying. She just gave me everything I needed. She assaulted my mother on camera, made false defamatory statements in public, and now I can respond with the truth about her family without looking like the aggressor. Adrian, this will destroy her. Yes, he said simply, it will. Helena reached out and grabbed Adrian's hand. Son, I don't want this. She's a victim too, in her own way. Her father abused her with lies. She laid hands on you, Mother. That ends the sympathy I might have had. Over the next 48 hours, I watched my husband dismantle Vanessa Pierce's life with surgical precision. First, the hospital released Helena's medical records to the police. Vanessa was formally charged with assault. The video from the supermarket was everywhere, but now Adrian's team had released context. The old court records showing Ronald Pierce's documented violence, testimony from his ex-wife about the abuse, proof that Helena had been a witness, not a homewrecker. Public opinion shifted overnight. Suddenly, Vanessa wasn't a victim confronting her father's mistress. She was an assaulter who'd believed her abusive father's lies and attacked an innocent woman. Then came the devastating part. FBI agents raided Gregory Palmer's office at 6 a.m. Adrian had given them everything. Years of evidence gift-wrapped with a legal bow. Palmer was arrested on 17 counts of fraud, money laundering, and racketeering. The news showed him being walked out in handcuffs. Vanessa's world exploded. Their assets were frozen. Their mansion was seized. Her bank accounts were locked pending investigation. Within 24 hours, she went from wealthy socialite to potentially homeless. But Adrian wasn't done. He released Ronald Pierce's medical records from his final years. Terminal illness, dying alone in a nursing home. And a letter, written 6 months before his death, confessing everything. Admitting he'd lied about Helena. Admitting he'd been violent. Apologizing to his ex-wife and daughter for the poison he'd fed them. I bought Ronald's debts in his final years, Adrian told me that night. We were in his study and he was pouring whiskey with steady hands. Paid for his nursing home anonymously. In exchange, he agreed to write the truth. I had it notarized, witnessed, legally airtight. You've been planning this for how long? 15 years, since the first threatening letter arrived after my father died. Adrian looked at me. You think I'm a monster? I think you're terrifying, I said honestly. But I also think you protected your mother when no one else could. She saved a woman's life 30 years ago. She testified even though she knew it would cost her. My father protected her, and when he died, that job became mine. Adrian's eyes were cold. I won't apologize for that. 3 days after the assault, Vanessa Pierce showed up at our door. Security called first, asking if we wanted her removed. Adrian told them to let her in. She looked destroyed. Her expensive clothes were wrinkled, no makeup, hair unwashed. She'd aged 10 years in 3 days. Our butler showed her to the sitting room where Helena was resting, her head still bandaged. I watched from the doorway as Vanessa fell to her knees in front of Helena. "I'm sorry," she sobbed. "I'm so sorry." I read my father's letter. All these years, I believed him. I hated you, and you were trying to save my mother. You were trying to save me. Helena's face crumpled. She reached down and pulled Vanessa up, held her while she cried. "Your father was sick," Helena said softly. "Sick in his mind, sick in his soul. What he did to you, making you hate me instead of dealing with his own demons, that was abuse too. I'm sorry you carried that all these years." "I hit you," I could have killed you. But you didn't. And now you know the truth. That's what matters." Adrian stood in the corner, arms crossed, watching. His face was unreadable. Vanessa turned to him. "Please, my husband is guilty. I understand that. But my children, they're going to lose everything. Their school expelled them. People are harassing us. I know I deserve this, but they don't." "No," Adrian said coldly. "They don't." Vanessa's face lit up with hope. "Your husband defrauded innocent people, elderly couples who trusted him with their life savings. He's going to prison for a very long time." Adrian's voice was ice. "Your assets will be liquidated to pay restitution to his victims. You'll lose the house, the cars, everything." "Adrian," Helena started. "However," Adrian continued, "your children's education will be paid for. I've established a trust fund in their names. They'll have enough for college, for a start in life. But you?" He stepped closer to Vanessa. "You'll have to rebuild from nothing. Just like my mother did. Just like your own mother did when she left your father. Maybe then you'll understand what real strength looks like." Vanessa nodded, tears streaming. "Thank you. Even though I don't deserve—" "You're right. You don't. I'm doing this for your children, not for you. And for my mother because she's a better person than I'll ever be." Adrian turned away. "Now get out of my house." After Vanessa left, Helena looked at her son with sad eyes. "You didn't have to be so harsh." "Yes, I did. She needs to understand that actions have consequences, that you can't assault someone and expect mercy just because you were lied to." Adrian knelt beside his mother's chair. "You taught me to be kind. But you also taught me that kindness without strength is just weakness. I will always protect you. Always." Helena touched his face. "You're more like your father than you know." That night, lying in bed next to Adrian, I stared at the ceiling and tried to process everything. "You're not afraid of me now?" Adrian asked quietly in the darkness. "Terrified," I admitted. "But also, I understand you better. You don't lose control, do you? You just choose when to use it. My mother is the only person I've ever loved more than my own ambition. When I saw her bleeding on that floor," his voice cracked just slightly, "I would burn the world down for her, Rose. And I need you to understand that. If you stay with me, you need to know what I'm capable of." I thought about it, about the calculated destruction I'd witnessed, about the cold precision of his revenge, about the man who planned for 15 years and struck without hesitation. "What would you do for me?" I asked. "If someone hurt me like that?" Adrian turned to look at me, and in the moonlight his eyes were absolutely serious. "Worse," he said simply. And strangely, that didn't scare me. It made me feel safer than I'd ever felt in my life. Vanessa thought one slap would satisfy her revenge. She didn't know Adrian had been preparing for 15 years. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. My husband served it frozen. And the scariest part? He smiled the entire time. That's when I understood. Never mistake silence for weakness. If this story gave you chills, smash that like button. Do you think Adrian went too far? Or was this justified? Comment below. I want to hear your thoughts. Subscribe because next week's story is even darker. And remember, the quietest person in the room is often the most dangerous. I'll see you in the next one.